Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Center for Black Equity's Community Conversations. It's been a while. We've been doing a lot of work here at the Center for Black Equity. If you don't know, my name is Kenya Hutton. I'm the Deputy Director of the Center for Black Equity, also known as the legendary Kenya Garcon, CEO of the Capitol Ballroom Council. It's a pleasure to have everyone here today. Today is the official start of an amazing new series that we're going to be having on the journey to LGBTQ parenthood. There's a lot of people in the community that have a lot of questions. And as I'm going to bring up my co-host in our conversations, we realize, we really need to get this information out to the community. So you don't want to hear from me. So I'm going to bring up the amazing David Marshall, CEO, founder of Journey to Josiah. Hey, David. Oh, I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Here we go. That's right. That would be me. A little jealous because I haven't reached legendary status. So I'm just here, just trying to be.
Oh my gosh. No, this is great. So tell us a little bit about yourself, David, and your organization.
Well, thanks. Well, as Kenya said, I'm David Marshall, founder and CEO of Journey to Josiah Incorporated. And in short, we help members of the 2S LGBTQIA plus community avoid the pitfalls and problems associated with the adoption and fostering process. As many of you may or may not know, there is a lot that kind of weighs against our community as it pertains to adopting and fostering children. I was fortunate and blessed to be able to adopt my son. You can probably see him behind me on the wall, just a little bit of him. That is Josiah. I got him when he was 2 weeks old. He is now 6 years old. And God moved in me to be able to be a blessing to others, just as I was blessed and honored to be able to be Josiah's father. What I'm going to do before we get into tonight's discussion, I'm going to give you all some information, some very important information. So listen closely. You don't have to take any notes, but listen closely. 1 in 35 children in the United States are adopted. It's estimated that there are 391,000 children and youth currently in foster care. 30.4% of youth in foster care identify as LGBTQ+. LGBTQ+ youth are 2.5 times more likely to be in a group home and to face mistreatment. So we're going to stop there and just kind of meditate on that. So what I'm saying to you in that bit of data is LGBTQ youth generally stay in care. Unfortunately, they're not able to be placed in forever homes just because of who they are. So I just need that to marinate a bit as you're navigating the thought process of adoption and fostering. Let's think about our children who are somewhat trapped in care. And then, as you heard, face mistreatment. Some of that mistreatment, a lot of it is sex trafficking. According to the Movement Advancement Project, 13 states have passed discriminatory adoption and foster care laws that harm children. 35% of the 2S LGBTQIA plus population lives in states which have no explicit protections against discrimination in adoption based on sexual orientation or gender identity. 22% of the 2S LGBTQIA plus community or population lives in states permitting state licensed child welfare agencies to refuse to place and provide services to children and families. So, with that, you hear that there is a lot of work to be done. And it really is up to each of us to be aware and to do this work. The premise of this discussion is not only to provide you with data, but to also provide you with some information about how to navigate this journey. As I like to say, avoid the pitfalls and problems associated with the adoption process. We're so glad to have with us this evening Tim and Ron Youngblack, Rome and Jonathan, and last but not least, Patrice and Jessica Ismail Gant. I'm going to thank you all in advance for joining us and agreeing to inspire, inform, and educate our audience. I thank you in advance for your transparency and at times your vulnerability. Kenya, you want to jump in before we start tag teaming these questions?
No, I also, again, that's some very jarring information. It's sad, right? Some of the information, and it's unfortunate for our community, especially when we have, families out here, people out here that would like to adopt children, and are being faced with an unnecessary onslaught of legislative barriers. I use all my big words. To that's really preventing children from getting being in a loving home. I posted this on social media, and the slew, and I believe I've mentioned to you also, David, the slew of comments, statements people made was alarming but not shocking, right? It's crazy that this is the way people think, and people would rather children go out a loving home than let them go to live with a LGBTQ family, and it's ridiculous. Anywho, I'm going to get off my soapbox real quick. I'm just going to say again, thank you all. I'll be here. I'll be jumping back and forth. I'll be populating questions. Anyone that's watching this, please feel free to ask your questions. Ask your questions live. We have some amazing panelists here that have all gone through the adoption process. Patrice, Jonathan, Ron, and David. Have a wealth of lived experience, lived knowledge that we want folks to really hear. And at the end of this, we're going to share some resources that folks can have if they want to dig deeper. This is also the first of a series of conversations. And our next conversation will be on December 13th. It'll be parenting LGBTQ plus children. We're going to cover a lot of topics over this series. Some topics that you may not even have thought about, but that has come up in some conversations that we want to really bring awareness to some of these issues. So yes, stay tuned all the way to the very end. If you're watching this later, reach out to us. My information will be available. Reach out to David, and we'll definitely get the information for you. All right, David, so on to you.
All right. Thank you, Kenya. So what I want to do with each of my guests, I want you all to kind of tell the audience, our viewing audience, a bit about yourselves. I'm going to start up in my top right-hand corner with Ron and Tim. Now, this question will be posed to all of our guests. So I want you to talk a bit about your family dynamic. Who are you? Who are we talking to? We don't know you. We've never seen you before. Talk a bit about your family dynamic, how many adopted and or foster children you have, their ages, and other fun or informative things you want to share about your children? So this is the kind of light and airy, whimsical part of the conversation. So as I said, we're gonna spin it to Ron and Tim first.
Hi. Oh, where's my hand? Hi, I'm Ron, and this is my husband, Tim.
Hi.
We've been together for 24 years. We adopted our son as a newborn 11 plus years ago. He's about 11 and a half now. We started our adoption journey in Baltimore, and then our journey followed us to the Chicago suburbs. And we currently reside in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Anything you want to say?
No, that's about it.
Ron covered it all, Tim. All right. Very good. And so thank you for sharing that. We're going to swing back around to you in a bit with some more probing questions. We're now going to jump to Jonathan in Rome. The same thing. Who are you? Tell us about your family dynamic, your children, adopted or foster children, and any other kind of fun fact you want to add.
How you doing? I'm Rome, and this is Jonathan. We've been married 4 years now.
As of November
2nd.
yes.
We've been married 4 years.
Happy
It's the
anniversary.
Thank you. We have one son, who's been who we're going on the journey with right now. We have like we go to our trial next month in order to finalize everything. He's been with us for a year.
He's 7.
He's 7. He was 6 when he first came to live with us. He's 7. So we didn't have him from birth, which is a little different. We have a birth mother that we have to deal with, and visitations and things like that. I don't know if the other couples had that, taking them home from the hospital. He has a little sister who's with another family.
She's 3.
And she's 3. So we're all one big family now.
They see each other regularly, FaceTime,
Right.
all that.
So it's a interesting dynamic here. Their parents are Caucasian. Her parents are Caucasian, and they're a lawyer and a director of a museum.
Yeah.
So and they also have a 7-year-old son also.
Yeah.
So we are we are just real mixed.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'll just say one thing: he's changed our lives, and he's an amazing kid.
Yeah.
I love it.
Every day we pick up something new that he wants to do. First it was he didn't talk at all. Now he sings everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
He just learned how to cook, and the biggest thing was he came to us like about a week ago and said
He wants to pray.
he wants to pray before food. So we started doing that.
That's amazing. I love it. Well, I didn't put this tagline in. I'm an opera singer by profession, so we need to send the baby on over to me, and we're gonna get him right ready for that good stage. You said nothing but a word to me just now. Thank you very, very much for sharing that. I love it. One big happy blended family. And that's another dynamic that we're definitely anxious to discuss, because many people tend to have concern when it comes to open adoptions and how those families look. And there are many misconceptions, and I'm going to go out and say this, many of them being in our community. When I say our community, not the LGBTQ community, but the Black community as it pertains to open adoption. Should we tell the children? Is it healthy? I love it. I can't wait to dig into that some more. Thank you so much. Now we have Patrice and Jessica Ismail Gant. I don't know if you need me to repeat those questions. If you do, I'm happy to, but just jump on in and tell us about yourselves. Again, we don't know you. Who are you?
Hi. So we're Patrice and Jessica. Our dynamic is rather complicated because we have 5 kids, 5 boys. 2 of our sons are adopted, and 3 of them are still in foster care. Our age ranges are: our oldest is 16. He just turned 16 in November. He's a Scorpio. I'll let that speak for itself. Then we also have our other son who is 15, and he is our first adopted son, but he became the middle. We also have a set of twins that are 5. One of them is autistic and nonverbal. And then we have our younger son who is 4 and completely verbal, and a Leo and a lion for sure. He is boss baby for sure. We've been married for 7 years. And we live in Virginia, and we are very excited to be a part of this panel.
Thank you very much, Patrice and Jessica. So now we're going to get into more of the probing area, if you will. And I'm not going to be as formal in terms of who I call out first. So I want you to jump in as you feel comfortable. But I would love to, if at all possible, hear each of your takes on some of these questions. The first one that I want to throw out is another very general one. Why adoption or fostering? Can you discuss what made you choose adoption or your route to becoming parents? And again, everyone here, our route was the same. It was adoption, foster care. So tell me a bit about what made you choose that route. Now I'm going to call on Jonathan and Rome because they got right tickled and they in the middle of my screen. So I need to giggle. So y'all go ahead and unmute. Tell us what happened.
I didn't want kids. That's way after that. When we first got together, we first started dating. That was my I don't want kids. Yeah, I didn't want. So and now he's wrapped around my finger, and is he gets on me about buying him stuff, taking him stuff, doing like whatever. Like that's why we laugh because it wasn't even a discussion. We discussed it probably like a year ago, 2 years ago. We discussed it after our anniversary. We were like, okay, let's look into this. So but he brought it to me, and I was kind of hesitant about it.
Cause he was like, if we're gonna do this, we getting a baby.
At first, I was like, if I want to do it, I'm gonna get a baby. I want a baby. I want to from the beginning, like you guys. I want a baby, but going through the classes and everything, I'm just like, whoa. I don't really know because, of course, we're fostering to adopt. So the general conception of like fostering is they want to reunification first. So I didn't want to get attached to the baby, and then the baby gets taken away from me. So you hear all these stories, once you pass, get all the classes done or whatever, you hear all the stories, and then they come to you and they present to you, they give you a call about a kid. And we did 2 respites, and then we got a call for our son. And I was like, okay, gotcha. Like so that's why I'm laughing because at first this wasn't even this was it was just me and him supposed to
He's simplifying it. The very first child we met was a child of he was curious about his sexuality, and his story and why he came into care was so compelling that he wasn't in the age range that we went. He was a preteen. He 12, just turned 13.
Yes, because God bless y'all, Patrice and you, because we had a teenager for 2 days. And
and it was so like the first thing he said to us was, that
I'm 13 going on 21 is what
right, and he didn't know if he was gay or if he was straight, and we were like, okay, we gay, as you know, we 2 men, so we're happy whatever and he says, well, I think he was trying to scare us. He said sometimes I wear women's clothes and makeup and eyelashes, and
I'm like, hey, like I got trans sisters. We
can bring you up.
I can call them over. They can get you together, like because you covered around with me with a bonnet on and sweatpants and Yeezy slides. I'm not doing that. We're not gonna do. If we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it. Okay, we're not half drag. We're gonna give you full geesh. We're gonna be in full drag.
So they kind of backed off from it.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, I don't do it, man. Okay, because we'll get you together there. Right. I was gonna really get my sister to come over here and get you together."
So I was just more along the lines of, if that's where you want to go, we're supporting you. We're here, which way you want, it's fine. The telltale sign was he came to him first, which everybody always thinks I'm the mean one. He came to him.
Can you please? Because Kenya has known me for a long time. Please, can you please? Don't say no comment. Don't make comment. Can you please?
And so he went to him. He was like, he needed melatonin to go to sleep. He needed a drink, an alcoholic drink. He just turned 13, like 3 days before we met him. And he wanted that he thought he was going to go out and he needed mace
and a taser.
and a taser. And we were like, we don't live that lifestyle.
I said, baby, if
You're
I
not-
go on that you need a taser and some mace,
You're not going.
you don't need to go.
Right.
We're not doing that.
So it was hard because he was just there for the weekend. That was actually the first 5 hours. He was just there for the weekend. And so my husband and I looked at each other about, it was like Monday, because it's hard to tell a child that has lost their family.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they witnessed their mom killed in front of them. And so it was hard for us. We looked at him and we looked at each other and said,
the story is triggering,
but we just can't do this. This is not for us. So we had to say no to him.
I couldn't.
And that was very hard.
Which he didn't want. He said no to us because we were too strict, and he wasn't feeling it. So it was a no across the board.
Right.
When the social worker was like, you can stay with them for like 2 more days, he went upstairs. He said no. He ran upstairs, grabbed his stuff, and walked out the door.
Didn't even say bye.
Didn't say bye.
The social worker was mad because he had no place to put him.
Yeah. So
and the social worker was actually gay also.
Yeah.
So it was a weird dynamic at first, but that was our first experience as foster parents. Yeah. But it was really hard. I know I had difficulties saying no, that this child is not right for us. But the thing was, by saying no, we were blessed.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you have to go through that hard decisions because you want it so much. You have to go through that hard decision. It's like, this is not right for me.
Yeah, if it's not gonna be right for you and the child,
definitely not. Right. Yeah, it's definitely. So that's one of the biggest. That was one of the biggest first hurdles. I mean, is that we will all have good hearts. We want to be parents. We want to help a child, but sometimes we're not the ones to help them. We have to be able to say no.
Yeah. That is one of the hardest in the world to say. And I just applaud you for saying that, because it takes something to know that it just don't mesh. It just don't work right. It's just not what it is. We had a similar story before our adopted kids. We had a 16-year-old that we were going to adopt. We had a girl, but I'm not even going to focus on that. I'm going to talk about, we had a 16-year-old and we were very close to adoption. It was 2 years in. We went through the pandemic together. And I know that a lot of people don't talk about the pandemic, but pandemic and foster care was a big thing because, depending on your placement, you were stuck with some kids and you didn't even know who they were. So we got our son that we did adopt. And we got another son at 16 because he's still my son. It does not matter. Once you come here, you're my son. So regardless of what happened. And we got both of them, and then we got locked down within 2 weeks of placement, and the other within 3 weeks. One, we were unable to adopt because it just so much happened, from contact to their family to being around, just the things that were already ingrained in them that you're actually bringing into your household. It's a big thing because their whole family, their whole life, when you have a kid that's older, everything that they've been taught comes with them. Their energy, their life, their attachment, their reactive attachment, their emotions, all that comes with them into your household. And if you have other kids, that's coming into them too. And so it takes a lot to really know that it's not meshing. And it takes the parent to say it, because sometimes the kid might not say it. And sometimes the kids agree. Like, we struggle with saying no to him. He was 16 and he said, no, I don't want to be adopted. I just want to be treated like a foster kid. I just want to go. I want to go to a group home. I want to finish school and I want to do everything. We had laid the foundation through the pandemic to make sure that he was good. But it kind of felt like rejection, because it's like we were so willing to, even though it was so difficult, we were so willing to sacrifice ourselves because of this. idea that this kid was placed there. We didn't want them to feel abandoned by us like they did their parent. And that was a big, big, big thing for us. We never wanted to create more trauma. And that's a big thing because foster parents and the lives that they live and the things that they do can create trauma even when we don't expect it because they're adding on new life. So we never wanted to be that. And so it took a lot for us to be able to say, you know what? Okay, we agree with your decision and we can let you go. It is like grieving the death of a relationship that you possibly thought could happen. And I know that a lot of people don't talk about that grief when it becomes a foster parent. But before you get to the idea of adoption, you might have to go through several things that you have to grieve. And that grief feels whatever it might feel for you, but it's real, it's hard, and it is difficult to place. And no one speaks about it. So you're by yourself. And even in your other foster care groups, they don't really delve into what it feels like to lose someone and then get another place in the next day and have to be ready for them too. Ready to be on and loving them and caring for them and kissing them. It's a little difficult. So I applaud you for just acknowledging that.
Before we go over to Ron and Tim, I want to thank you all for both bringing that up because that's a topic that I don't think David and I have even talked about, like the rejection piece and that grieving piece. What I'm hearing you all say is that there's no resources for you all as foster parents to go through that. It's almost like you have to just like go from one and go to the other without like proper grief, right? And I couldn't imagine what that's like.
I think that a lot of foster care agencies are focused on maintaining placement and making sure that the kids and the youth are great. That I think that they struggle with maintaining the mental health of their resource parents. You know, I am a resource, but sometimes I'm depleted. I just be real.
Yeah, no.
And also they don't want to address that because they don't want to scare you off.
Yeah.
It's a very small, especially let's be real, us in our community.
Yeah. We don't, it's a lot.
It's not a lot of us that adopt.
As far as black,
LGBT it's very few. Onyx quiet. And the harder part is the idea is that they don't want to tell you those things. And also they can't tell you those things because each situation is different. Each person is different. How I handle grief is different from everyone else there. We live together and we handle it differently. Right. So they can't really give you a resource. I found the most solace and information was I did a lot of support groups with other foster parents. And I still do to this day. And that was better than any resource that CFSA has been able to give me.
Yeah. Thank you.
The person that is our backup was somebody I was in class with instead of those people that you picked as family members that were going to be, or that friend that's known you for 20 years. It was actually somebody I went to class with. We went to class with, and we became family. They knew the journey.
Wow. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Patrice.
I'm so sorry. That is amazing, but it's also a little sad. Like, I must say that I'm a little bit more blessed down here in Virginia because it's a little bit smaller. So we do have a lot of resources. We are blessed to be with an agency that is a therapeutic agency. So it's smaller. So we're not like with one city particular. We're with the whole state of Virginia. And so that agency provides us support groups for our adoptive kids and our foster kids. We have monthly meetings, we have resources, different things that are available for us. We have things that they do monthly for the kids, activities, resources. So I must say I am a little bit more blessed with that piece. I think the thing that I'm missing that you have is that community, like other foster parents that are there. I think we kind of work more like a agency piece, so it's more work, and you have that family like, oh, okay, this is what we have, This is what's going on.
But
This is what we need.
Develop friendship, though.
We do
You
develop
know,
friendship.
We do develop friendships during the meetings where we get to just call each other on the phone. And, you know, I have a friend of mine that, you know, adopted, well, not adopted, but she has a foster baby. He's about nine months old. And, you know, she sometimes just calls me and she just needs to cry. And I'm just like, okay, just cry. And, you know, and we are able to talk to each other frankly about what's going on in our lives, what we're feeling. It's not like we have a social worker, like, you know, behind us. You know, we can just be free to feel and talk about what's going on in our lives with our kids.
Because a lot of times we don't really talk about the attachment portion of what it feels like, because we're already so excited and so happy and so excited to have this kid in our home, but we have to be able to attach to them and they have to be able to attach to us.
Yeah.
Can I just pause in just that second, because we're going, I want to dig into that, and you both, Jonathan, Patrice, you all have given us some terminology that we do need to go back and define, because I know that Jonathan made mention of respite. I think that was what you, and then you talked about therapeutic, Patrice. So these are terms that we want to go back and define. Prior to us going back and defining those terms, first, let me say thank you already, because you all have already jumped way into the
way ahead.
I mean, y'all are in it, but that's wonderful, because this is all information that we want to dig into, and we're going to go back and ask some other questions based on what you four have shared. What I want to do is I want to also get Ron and Tim in here, because I'm sure you all have a different layer, different dynamic to add. I'm not even going to ask the question. Just jump right on. Give us what you want to give us.
Well, Jonathan, I was in the same boat that you were. I was like, God made me gay for a reason, and it's obvious I am not to have kids.
And along comes me.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a family.
So, yeah, and to speak on the other things you guys were talking about, I didn't even have to have a child in our home. Once I heard their story and their background, and then I was told that they were going back to their family, I actually got depressed right then.
I was going to say, if you're talking about attachment.
Yeah, it kills me to hear a kid's story where they're going back to two parents that have been drug addicts over and over and over again, and always told, well, we're going to clean up our act. They clean it up one week, and the next week they're doing it again. And they're just handing the kids back. And I'm like, what situation is that kid going back to? And right there, doctors had to put me on drugs because I immediately got depressed. That, you know, over and over again, we heard stories of, we got close to one adoption working with our lawyer, and we were going to go down and meet the girl and meet her daughter. Her daughter was 8 years old at the time, I think.
I think she was six.
And before we even got in the car, the lawyer calls and goes, "Don't come down." She gave her to a friend. And I'm like, how do you give up your kid? How do you just hand your child to a friend because her boyfriend didn't want her around? And so I can't handle that.
Let me back up and say, so we fostered some kittens for PetSmart or Petco. And the lady comes to our home to retrieve the kittens and take them to the store so they can be adopted out. This one decides.
I have the church finger. You started with the kittens.
Hey,
all right, that's fine. My first adoptee was my cat when I lived in New York. I'm done. No, go ahead.
Well, these weren't supposed to be adopted by us. They came to pick them up, and I said, they're siblings.
They're siblings. You can't split them up. They're kittens, just like puppies. They get split up and go to different homes all the time. So I said one or none. I was fine with none because we did our job as foster parents. We adopted 3 kittens in addition to 2 other cats that we had. And so that made 5 cats total and 3 dogs in a very small 2-bedroom home in Baltimore. So needless to say, one more dog, we would have needed a kennel license. Fast forward to, we actually started the adoption process, DCFS, I don't know who it was in Baltimore. We got cold. Well, I don't think we got cold feet. We went through the training class. We finished it, and I think we both just kind of got cold feet, so we didn't really pursue anything forward.
Right. What I can tell everybody is, don't use the excuse of we don't have enough money, or we can't support a child, because once that child is in your house, you find a way to support that child. But that was our first time going through DSS. It was me in the background going, okay, I'm running all the figures going, nope, we can't afford it. Nope, we can't afford it. And that gave us the cold feet that, yeah, okay, we can't afford it. We don't have the extra money in the budget. You find it. It's 11 years later, and I'm still finding money to buy goofy electronics that the kid needs, or this kid needs, sitting beside me, my other child.
So we did go through the process the second time. We got further. We got to the point of the home study. The caseworker came out, questioned us about the house being built in the 50s and the possibility of lead paint on the doors. And she asked if we would be able to commit to a minimum 6-month time period that the court process would take. And with his job and being in the training program, we were kind of like a military family. He could get the call, and then we would be in another state within a couple weeks. And ironically, that's what happened the next month. So we told her no, we couldn't commit. Moved to Illinois. A friend from Baltimore reached out.
But she wanted us to do respite care.
Right.
And
we were concerned about having.
Can you all define, I'm sorry, this is a term that Jonathan uses. So can you define respite for our audience?
I used to work at a group home for the mentally ill. And respite care meant if the family wanted to go on vacation somewhere, but they didn't want to take their mentally ill child with them, they would come to me at the group home for the weekend, for the week, whatever the vacation was, and they would stay with me. And it's the same with foster care. It's normally the family that has them in care is going away. Normally foster care, you can't take the child across state lines. So the child has to go to some other home while they go on vacation. And I refuse to do that, because in my mind, if the child is in my home, that child is mine. That child goes wherever I go. And if I'm going on vacation to Disney World, that foster child is going to Disney World with me. That's the way I feel, that they're not something separate. And I'm not about to send someone, oh, you can't go to Disney World with us because you're just here on foster care. No, it to me, that doesn't work that way.
The idea that I'm not going to have my child go to respite care with someone that they don't know or see on a regular basis either.
Yeah, going with a complete stranger.
They go with a complete stranger, that somebody they met once or twice. No, I'm good.
Yeah,
We'll figure it. Well, now there's documentation. At least here, you can do documentation. You get the approval of the bio parent to take the child wherever you would like to go. Because his sister is about to go to Mexico and on the 18th.
So the amazing thing is this wonderful act that was passed is called the Normalcy Act. And this act allows you to be able to allow your foster kid to be normal. The things that a normal kid could do, your kid should do. They should be able to go to sleepovers without approval of a social. They should be able to go on camping trips with their Boy Scout group. They should be able to go on family trips. They should be able to leave the country. They should be able to do all those things. We do all of those things with our kids, and the Normalcy Act allows us to do it. You do have to have approval, so you do have to have a travel documents. So what'll happen is there is usually a 2 week window, 2 to 4 week window that you have to submit your travel documents. It is different if you're leaving the country. They are now able to allow kids to leave the country with the Normalcy Act. So they will allow the kids to have passports to be able to do different things. The only difference is those kids' passports are held by social services. So, for example, if we want to take our kids to Jamaica, we get the actual passports from social services. They'll give us the passports. We'll take them to Jamaica, and then we can take them back. If we want to travel within the state, we get travel documents that say this is where we're going, this is the address we'll be in, this is the time we'll be there.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay, so I wanted to say,
oh, go ahead.
if that's okay, I wanted to say something about the respite. And the respite is, I mean, the Normalcy Act is like super important. Like that's like a major thing, right? But respite is also for you as parents. Respite is to give you a break. Respite is like, I am going on a date and I need someone to watch the kids, or I have an emergency out of town and I can't take the kids with me. But the one thing that we do when we do respite is we never send our kids to a stranger's house without first meeting them and our children meeting them and our children spending time with them, where they get to see where they're going to be, they get to see the room they're going to sleep in, and they know that they can call us at any time, and they already know that we're going to call them. So it's just, having that, it's kind of like having a babysitter, but somebody that they feel comfortable, that you feel comfortable with, so I think when you become an adoptee, or you want to become an adoptee, you want to know, hey, that there is support out there for me. I don't always have to take the kids. Sometimes me and my husband, or me and my wife, we need a break, and it's okay.
And respite in foster care and respite in adoption are still options. So you can have what is called community respite, which allows you to have respite within your support group for kids that are adopted. And you are able to use those things. For example, we are therapeutic foster parents. So we do respite within our therapeutic family, which is
What
our
does therapeutic mean?
Huh?
That was one of the terms. Tell us what that means.
So therapeutic means a child that requires extra attention, extra ability, and most often extra time and attention for what they need. For example, you might have a kid that has ADHD, but their ADHD impacts them everywhere, and is not easily able to be just helped with interventions. They need extra care, extra time. For example, almost all of our kids need 24-hour supervision. 24-hour supervision, which means you're on as a parent 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You are watching them. You're making sure, because they come with behaviors that impede them. But within that, almost every therapeutic foster care placement comes with what's called case management. So you get a case manager that comes in the house that teaches you how to communicate, how to work with, how to imply interventions that's going to help that kid grow. We've been blessed. Our youngest kid that is now 15, we got when he was 8. We've had interventions since he was 8. And we're going to have interventions until he's 18 to be able to help him be successful, because of the trauma that he received between 1 to 5 was so great that if not addressed, he would have a very difficult future. And so our job as a therapeutic foster parent is to address it always, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to always think therapeutically for our kid, which is very difficult because most times as a parent, you're reactive. You do the things that you know what to do, how you were parented. Therapeutic means you have to learn a whole nother style. You have to have trauma-based teaching, trauma-based thought process, trauma-based communication, and trauma-based validation, because you have to validate them so that their trauma is no longer valid. That's a big thing. And most often, I can tell you as the parents, it's a stress. It's a stress. And it's also very difficult because it sometimes triggers you. It triggers you and the things that you've went through.
Thank
I,
you.
But
I applaud you for that, because that is very tough. Because I know, like for me, at the group home, after 3 years, I was burnt, and I had to get out because I knew that it was either the clients or me. So I applaud you for that, because that's hard to deal with 24/7.
And thank you
and
for
thank you.
explaining the other reasons that families or foster care families utilize respite care, because I guess I've only heard the side that Tim has gone through, but knowing that sometimes foster parents do just need a mental health break or whatever kind of break. We don't think about that as parents, because typically as parents, it's 24/7. We don't typically think, oh, I get to take a break, let me schedule this and drop my kid off over there, because I didn't know that through fostering that was an option. And that, I think, part of that, and then part of the possibility of revolving door. I know typically the agencies or social service wants to reunify the child back with the parent. That doesn't help us when we want to adopt. I understand giving children a home so hopefully their family can work things out, but that's why we steered away from, we were originally fostered to adopt, and the more and more we heard that it could possibly be a revolving door, and the situation of us being so open to, at the time, accepting any child, it just made us a little bit more afraid. So that's why we switched over to just adopting only. And then we actually chose to just do private adoption via word of mouth. And I wanted to comment on Damien's comment. Damien from Facebook had said something earlier about, I forgot now. So sorry. It left my brain.
It might be up here on the screen now.
Yeah.
About respite.
That was also a fear that we would be put in that situation that he was in, that we would just constantly be getting respite care, or we would not get any adoption opportunities, but told that they were. So we pulled ourselves from that situation where we were still in Baltimore.
And you got to think, we did this
2006,
12 years ago, 13 years ago,
2007.
So there's probably a lot of policies and a lot of changes that have happened in 12 years, 13 years. So, I mean, it's a different world now.
What I want to do, I want to segue just a little bit. Now, what I can appreciate is that we've definitely gotten we've got a masterclass, again, I'll say, in the world of foster care and how that works. As our audience can hear, there are many layers, many layers. But another layer that I want to dive into a bit, because I don't want us to go too far over, because I do want to be able to take some questions, but this is something very important. I want to know if during your process, and when I say your process, meaning your process to foster, your process to adopt, if any of you all experienced any sort of pushback. So as we talked about in the earlier part of the data that I gave, we know that there are 13 states in the United States of America that allow for discrimination based on sexual identity, orientation, and I left out one, religion. And so many of our families right now are experiencing a lot of pushback. Let me give you this bit of information. I have a client that is currently in San Francisco. Now, we would think of San Francisco as one of the most liberal states in the United States of America. However, he was denied by 6 agencies and was told, because you are a single gay man. And along with that, no birth family would pick him. A lot to process there. I can say this, that was not a part of my journey. And I was awakened and educated a lot when I began to do this work. What I want to know from any of our guests here, was that a part of any of your journeys? And if so, how did you navigate that? Is that a part of anyone's journey that we have here?
It was definitely not a part of our journey. We went straight therapeutic from the beginning. And the only part that was a part of our journey is that we started our foster care before we were married. And we were told that we would never be able to adopt unless we were married, because there was no such thing as adoption as just a domestic partnership or anything else. So it was adoption equal marriage in our realm, but we didn't get any pushback. They were very excited.
Okay.
I have a question though. I am kind of curious to know what type of audience. We have an audience of mostly men, women. What is?
Very good question. Kenya, do you have a demographic report?
Well, we're streaming it on multiple platforms, so it's could be men, women. I can't really tell who are right now watching. I know we have folks watching on 3 different platforms right now. So I can't really tell what they are, but I could say as far as like I'm streaming it on my personal page, everybody. And it's Center for Black Equity, the Forum Council page. We have a mixture of people that will see this. Excuse me. And when we upload it onto David's platforms later, so there's no graphic, I could say.
Yeah, I was just, the reason I even asked that question was because, we're talking a lot about, single men having a difficult time, adopting. And I don't know how different it is for someone who is just a female or who is, a married couple like ourselves. Like, so that's kind of why I was kind of going with the question, like, where are we finding the most difficulty when it comes to adopting these children? Is it mainly single males? Is it married males? Is it like, it's important to.
I kind of would think that it's just males in general. And I say that because, it's really funny. My wife just came back from out of town, and my gay male cousin came to visit me to help me with the kids. And it was so weird because everyone's like, oh, well, can you guys handle it? Well, yes, we can handle it. Like, we can still have a dynamic. It doesn't have to look like you want it to look. But I think that because they think a male can't do certain things that is of nurturing just mindset or thought process, that they automatically shut it off. And I guess it's weird because maybe as a woman I would have thought that, but I spent this whole week. Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's straight women or anything. I think it's just women or people in general. And sometimes, often, straight men think that it's not their responsibility or that they can't fit into that role when they do really have that ability to do it. It just, they don't want to push themselves to outside of the role that I think that they think is the box that they're in. Because my cousin, when he came down, he was able to feed the kids, help me with the kids. He was loving, attentive. He was kissy. He was huggy. They cuddled. All of those things were there. And it didn't feel weird or any of those things. It was literally just people interacting with kids. And I think that's the box that the rest of the community has to get out of, to think that we're capable, whether we're two women, two men, single woman, single man, doesn't matter. It doesn't turn off what we're capable of giving in a relationship with a kid. And that's where everyone has to work.
You're absolutely right. But what I will say, because I'm also working with a variety of agencies and a variety of clients. So let me say this. Actually, there's a little bit of a contradiction as it pertains to women. So there are agencies, and I spoke to one in particular who they did not have hesitation, but some of their birth parents do when it becomes two women. This is why you would never think of this. Because sometimes birth mothers struggle with another woman raising their child. Sometimes psychologically, birth mothers want to still maintain the idea of being mommy. Something I never would have thought of. And with that, some are then more comfortable with men simply because the role of mommy is still in their own mind theirs. So there are some different dynamics that one would never think of as it pertains to that. It seems logical in one way, but we learn very quickly there is no rhyme or reason or no logic to it. I wanted to ask, because I feel like I saw Jonathan and Rome want to jump in on this.
Oh, I get what you just said, because it's kind of like, example, it's kind of like, when a girl has a baby by a guy, and then they break up, the baby mother doesn't want the baby father to bring the baby around the current girlfriend. So that's the same dynamic. I get what you said about that. So it's kind of like that same thing. What if she don't want her child being treated like, the current girlfriend treating her child like it's hers. So yeah, I get that.
In DC, there are laws in DC that prohibit any kind of discrimination for sexual orientation, religious orientation, even cultural background, as far as us being black and the child being white, or vice versa. There are laws in DC that prohibit any kind of
Or if we were Muslim, the child was
Christian.
Yeah, like
They do not allow any of that in DC. So to answer your question, we never got any pushback, and because we didn't do private, we went through CFSA, and those laws, I guess it's the birth parents can't say, oh, I don't want to place with that child, or I don't want to place with that parent, I don't want to place. They don't have that ability to do that. So it's different than just a private agency.
You're correct. Public agencies are governed by laws, whereas, like, you think about a private school, private schools can choose to not have you because of a learning level. They can do different things than any kind of public entity can do. So you're very correct in that. What I do want to say, and this is just because I have my own personal knowledge of this, I need Ron and Tim to chime in this area, because your experience was clearly very different. Can you go back and tell us, when you were here in Baltimore, where I'm sitting right now, looking out at the wonderful stadium out my office window, tell me what you were told in the very beginning of your process.
Don't worry, I was going to backtrack. When we were, I guess, going through DCFS and doing the fostering to adopt process, we were told that as a gay male couple, well, I'll elaborate. As a gay male couple, we could not adopt a girl. We could only adopt. We could not adopt or foster a girl. We could only adopt or foster a boy. Even if we were single men seeking to adopt or foster, we could only adopt a boy. We could not adopt a girl. So I chose to go ahead and get into a debate about that. I'm like, if you are worried about sexual abuse, why would you make that choice? We want to adopt one of each, adopt to foster, we would like to have a boy and a girl that would be the perfect little family for us. And they're like, it can't happen. A woman going through them as well could only adopt or foster a girl, not a boy. And I could not wrap my mind around their reasoning for that.
I understood it for a single straight male or a single straight female, but for a gay couple, if we're going to sexually abuse a child, it's going to be a male versus a female.
I would hope none.
Would be my thing. Well, that's what I said. If we were going to.
There's a question that popped up from Casey Dooley. Hey, Casey, out of Boston. And this is actually a question that I was wondering as y'all were talking. And I don't know if anyone on the call or maybe David might have a response for this, but would like to know the experience of the trans and non-binary community in their process for adoption. Because I'm hearing everything that you all both are talking about, and I'm wondering about the trans and non-binary community. What are their experiences like? I don't know if anyone on the call can speak to that or have any.
Yeah. I mean, Casey, I can tell you one thing. It's finding an agency that'll deal with you. Even when we started the adoption process in Illinois, it took several phone calls to find a home study agency that would actually work with a gay couple.
So we were never told, no, you cannot adopt because you're a gay couple. We were told, no, we won't do your home study because you're a gay couple.
Oh, wow. So you can even get to the home study part.
Correct.
Before you said no.
And we ended up finding
years on these instances, because that's another very important part of this dynamic. What year was this in Baltimore that you encountered this?
Baltimore would have been 2006, 2007 versus the trouble of finding an agency to do the home study in Illinois. That was 2010,
2011, around there somewhere.
So I could only imagine, because we don't have anybody that experience. I could only imagine what it would be like for some of the trans and non-binary community. If y'all can't even get a home study, and that's the part that's blowing my mind, right? You can even get to the home study part before they're saying no. Wow.
And when we think about what I would not impose any information on that, simply because what I have not personally seen is the data. Now, because when I read off all this data, it was very generalized, right? It was inclusive of everybody and not specific groups. So what I want to do, Casey, is do some more research on the breakdown of the various identities within the 2S LGBTQIA plus community. I would feel irresponsible to say one way or another. What I know is the data that pertains to gay and lesbian couples, and or single individuals.
I see Damien says it's a lot different now. It's much easier for a home study, and finding agencies a little easier now too. So things have changed. But you brought up a very good point there, David, about the data. In my social justice, health world, I'm a big person on data, and I believe we need data. And I know, and I can speak from from the health perspective. I can speak from a couple of perspectives. That they really don't break down the data like that for us to see. Like the data is very generalized. But we do need to encourage our agencies and entities to really break down that data so we can know how and what we need to address to change these things. That's a very, very good question, Casey, and very good point there, David, that we really need to get the data. It is not out there. We need somebody, David, to lead the charge on collecting that data. We'll talk about that afterwards. I'm good. But we may need that. If the data's not out there, we need someone to lead the charge to get that data, because that's some information that we need to know, right? Because we, our trans and non-binary community folks, they need to know that information as well. Yeah.
And I would venture to say, and I don't want to step too far on a limb here, when it comes to our community and how we all identify, because we all identify differently. I want to say that it's really some of this data that I am referring to, while it is current, I believe, now this is David speaking, this is nobody's organization speaking. I believe that there is still some bias that allows organizations to not break down according to identity, if you understand what I'm saying. I think that there's still, because as we listen right now and what is happening socially, what is the community that is getting the majority of the pushback, the vitriol, the hate? So when we talk about that, we're talking largely right now about the trans community. That's that right now, while our community as a whole is under attack. But again, when we talk about the breakdown here, because each area is its own entity, so to speak. So when we talk about that, the majority of the hate, when we think about even Southern laws and this whole notion of a drag queen reading to children, you've then picked out a whole nother area, a whole nother community here. So I think some things have just not come up to where we are. And when I say that, again, is actually recognizing and breaking down each individual part of the community. I hope that makes some sense in what I'm saying. So thank you, Kenya. I do believe, I'm gonna try my best. Now I don't have any public policy.
I'm part you in Casey. You in Casey.
Okay, we're gonna work that out. I thank you for that, Ron and Tim. And again, it's also important to say, and I believe Damien said it, and Kenya said it as well. Laws have changed. As you heard me say in the beginning, there are now just 13 states. So even as I want to say Rome, correct me if I'm wrong, Jonathan, made mention of there being protections in DC, as there now are in Maryland, as there are in the majority of the states in the union. But we still have those 13. So based on, what I said earlier, there are some states, and what Ron actually and Tim, what their experience was, there are some states that would say the exact same things right now, today. And they are legally allowed to do that.
Yeah. I think it's very important to note that some of these things are state focused. And Casey just said, I'm going to put on the screen, she'll be happy to help with collecting the data. Oh, see, we got another project going on right now, David. Here we go.
Okay, Casey, call me, honey. Come on, call me. Are there any other? I just want to kind of make this general. Are there any other experiences that any of you have encountered, or are there? Let me ask you this. This is another one of those questions, because this has actually applied to me in the beginning. In the beginning, I had a little bit of fear before I started the process. And I remember when I identified my agency, which is actually identified by two friends of mine, the first thing I asked was, will they accept me as a single gay man? Because I had, it's just that thing. You got to know it, because we do know we're not welcome in all spaces and places. Was there any of any of our families here, when you all started the process, did you all have any concern in the back of your mind that somebody might tell me no because of who I
am? Good question.
I didn't have any concerns about if someone would tell us no. My concern is protecting our son with the outside world, because not only is he has two gay male parents, he makes sure everyone knows he has two dads. So he did have an incident at school like last year with one of his best friends. We call them the Three Stooges. Um, they were at my son, like our son wasn't around, so he didn't hear it, thank God. But one of the kids was saying that, Marquise has two dads. The other kid, his best friend, said, well, at least his dad is around, which was, that's, my son picks up the reading from me, so he caught that. The child caught. That was a read.
Oh, that's
So
much than I would say.
it's only not protection from like them. It's like outside work because now not only am I raising this kid that's not mine, that I'm growing, I'm loving, but I'm also raising a black man. Like so, and what's going on? Like you just spoke, what's going on in the outside world with our young black men? Yeah, that's plays in my mind more than anything. That rejection or anybody with anybody so think it's just I'm raising a black man in this society or in how society sees black men right now. That's the scariest thing for me. And that's 100% real.
I
Like
think
that's the scariest thing for me.
yeah, I think
I
that's
don't
a
really care
great,
about what anybody thinks or whatever. It's just I'm raising a black man and this is the world he has to live in right now, which
yeah.
is bull crap.
Yeah. I think that's actually a great segue into something. I think we touched on it earlier that Ron and Tim had a situation with their one of their kids or their child is had some questions or concerns. I believe it was David you had mentioned. Was it them? Pertaining to the outside world, right? Do you guys want to talk about that a little bit?
I guess we constantly, sadly, discounted what our son was saying, but trying to give him tools to handle it. He was being bullied, and we didn't realize that he was actually being bullied, and that it had gotten to a point that through association with the very first girlfriend, we got into a totally different way of dealing with things that we quickly jumped on and we discouraged. We have the hyphenated last name. It's also his hyphenated last name. He was being teased and bullied about the name. He was being teased and bullied because he has two dads. And what else was he
Doesn't have a
bullied about?
mother.
Oh, because he doesn't have a mother. So we quickly, for any of the children giving him that type of negative attention, we quickly addressed it by showing, here's pictures of his birth mother. We always use the term birth family, birth mother. He is technically biologically a middle child. So he now has an older half sister and and a younger half sister. So he is fully aware of where he came from, who they are, as best as he is willing to accept. So we try to arm him with all of those things. You were not wanted.
Right.
Your birth mother wanted to create a better life for you than what she felt that she could provide for you at the time. You do have a mother. We all have a mother because we all came from somewhere. No test tube babies that I'm aware of. So we just did our best to try to jump on the negative attention that he was getting being adopted and having two dads. Sorry if I strayed too far.
No, you're right. You're right.
See, my son's school is less than 1,200 feet. So I'm listening out. I'm ready. Like I done told the teachers, principal, one bullet is all it's gonna take. I'm gonna have to catch the parent, the grandparent, the great grandparent, all of them. They all gonna catch it. So yeah, like one call.
We just
One
gonna
call.
go through ancestry.com and clear everybody out.
Yeah, like just clear the whole family out. Just one phone call. That's all it's gonna take.
Whomever is listening and their child is 1,200 feet away from
And
Jonathan
goes
and
to
Rome
Patterson
Williams,
Elementary School. One call.
I would suggest you just tread lightly or don't tread at all.
Don't tread at all.
Yeah, but like but seriously, like I understand what Ronaldson was saying, because that is something that they all know. They all know that, he has two dads. So, not boo.
Oh,
Yeah. Now you have to wait till they are 11 and they've dealt with all the bullying at school about having two dads, and you go to the first day of school orientation and you get looked at it and you're asked, can one of you stay in the car?
So that's new for us.
That was new for us.
Because we went through a period of time over the summer of I love you, but I wish one of you was a mom. Or I wish I had a mom and dad. Or I wish I could go live with my mom. So that we have been dealing with this particular year. So that has come up in his figuring out where he is in being an adopted child.
Okay.
And let's also give context to that versus where Jonathan and Rome live. Ron and Tim live in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
These areas make a big difference in how our children are going to be received, we'll say. I don't know. Now, Patrice and Jessica are in Virginia. That's y'all still in the South. Can you, well, technically so am I in Maryland, but it's not as far south. But Patrice, or I mean, Jessica, I'm sorry, I'm looking right at Jessica saying Patrice. Jessica, tell me your experience with that, if any experience at all. You're on mute, baby.
Experience with the kids, like in what way? Like
Because you have older children, and so you had 16, 15. Wait a minute, Zane is 14. So have you, so let me ask you this, based on Ron and Tim have had this experience with with can you stay in the car? Can you do have your children had any of these kinds of experiences?
Listen, we deal with it all the time. They want a daddy. They want a daddy. They want a daddy. There's the little kids like, who's a daddy? Now I'm Maddie daddy. So it is a lot because I don't even know how to be a Maddie daddy. I don't even like screws and all that stuff. Like, and so it's very difficult. But like they have these expectations of what they want us to be. They have these roles that they think we are supposed to fit into.
Because that's what they see on TV.
Yeah, they see it on TV. So our younger kids are very Coco Melon driven. So everything that they see on Coco Melon, that's what they expect us to be. Our older kids are a little different. I'm gonna be honest, our older kids try to act like they're our daddy. They want to tell us what to do.
Yeah.
They want to tell us where we're going.
Yeah.
They don't like it when people look at us. We go out in the street. Like if I have on something that they don't like or our body looks a little too form-fitting, they want to correct our clothes. Like they're a little different. They are very possessive of, I don't know if possessive is the best word because that sounds wrong, but they're very
protective
and vocal about their desires of what the role they want us to be. And because they're teenagers, I think they're trying to figure out exactly how to convey that to us. And so it's a struggle trying to figure out how to be a mom and allow them to be young men as well.
But and in school, let me say something, like in school, kids are mean. Like they're just bullies and they're mean. And because the kids are excited, or the first day of school, the teacher says, oh, tell me about you and your family. And they say, oh, well, we have two moms. And then of course, throughout the years, someone has to say something to my child about, oh, well, that's why you have two moms, and that's why your dad is not here, and blah blah blah. They make them feel so awful, and so they're constantly triggered at school, and it's very upsetting. And I'm very much like like you up here. I don't know. I don't remember your name. I can't see because I
Oh,
don't have.
Jonathan.
You know, like I'm like down the street from the school. Like, don't come from a kid now. Don't come. I'm coming. I'm coming for you. I'm coming for all of you. Your mommy, your daddy, your sister, your uncle, your brother. Like, I'm coming for all y'all. Like, you know, don't come from a kid. You know, so.
And I know personally that y'all fight. So there you
Yeah,
go.
I mean, you know.
I already know. So somebody's in trouble there too. I already know. Okay, sorry, Jessica. Go ahead.
And yes, the school does
But
know who we are.
I do think that it's wonderful for me for a little bit, for 2 seconds, to kind of be on this call, because as two lesbian couples, and for me a little bit, because I don't know, because people think that I portray a more masculine thing. There's these roles that I'm supposed to play. I think it's really good to hear you guys say, like, it's roles that people expect you guys to play too, and things that they expect you to do, and that, you know, as a same-sex couple, we're all battling the same things of trying to figure out how to secure our kids in their attachments. And it's a big thing. I recently just took this attachment quiz that kind of told me my attachment to my mom, my dad, my kids, and my spouse. It really helped me kind of just understand what it looks like in my attachment, and what that looks like to the people around me, as well as the people that I choose to be with me, and my kids as well attaching to me. And I think it's really interesting to understand how our kids attach to us. Like, you know, because we're therapeutic, most often our kids have a reactive attachment because they've been in reactive type situations their whole entire life. And most of us may have come from somewhat stable homes, and we don't have that reactive attachment. So we're trying to constantly be in that spiral, and we find ourselves constantly in that spiral because our kids are reactive attachment. And so they're always trying to get a rise out of us because they don't know how to just be loved, just be accepted, just think that you're great because you woke up this morning, you're great.
But just can I also say that, you know, we have like the things that everyone goes through with their children, it really sometimes you can take away the LGBTQ, you can take away all of that stuff, because I am telling you, as a freaking parent, okay, you're gonna go through all of the stuff that you guys are talking about, the same thing that we go through. I mean, it is hard being a parent, okay? So, you know, before we put any of our sexes on top, you know, on top here, we are parents first. And we're gonna feel the pain and the hurt and all of the stuff that we have to go through with our children. Okay?
Love that. Love that. Your parents first.
Can I circle back? So, are you like with Ron and Tim?
Oh.
Does your son have a relationship with his mom?
No, it is an open adoption.
Okay, so that's different from us because
she was in Illinois. She's now in a neighboring state. Birth grandmother is still in Illinois, but we moved down here when he was 3. So she has recently reached out stating that she would. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, our son, he sees his mom once a week.
Gotcha.
He sees her
she would like to establish communication with him now. More so, also, I think she wants the siblings to know who he is, because when he was born, the older half sister knew him as a different name. And then we stopped. It was the whole situation ended up being word of mouth through our church. They had actually started attending our church. It was an open, reconciling LGBTQ, etc. church. It got to the point that the birth grandmom was trying to be grandmom number 1. And Tim felt like us going to church was like supervised visitation for them, whereas birth mom was fine having the back seat, watching him grow. Birth grandmother wanted to be active grandmother, so we left that church and found a different one in our town that wasn't 40 minutes away. So that started the divide with the older half sister knowing her younger half brother. And then, like I said, then we moved down here when he was 3. And at that point, we had met the new younger half sister. So they're all 3 years apart.
Okay.
Wow.
And,
Oh,
and
yeah.
our
He sees his mom once a week, and the supervised business with currently right now is with just us. So it's either with me or Rome and um the other doctor, his sister's adopted parents. They'll bring her so she can see all the kids together. The dynamic's kind of different right now because she never she never raised him. He was raised first. His grandmother had custody of him. Then the grandmother's girlfriend had custody of him. So after that, the uncle had custody of him. So long story, grandmother died, had a heart attack. He was there in front of him. It died in front of him in the living room. He was there. Then the grandmother's girlfriend took him. She's driving in the car. She has a heart attack and dies. Have a car accident, and then the uncle takes him. The uncle goes through everything with CFSA to get everything with licensing, and he doesn't want to get a bed for him. Yeah. He doesn't want to get a bed for him to put in a room. So he takes him to CFSA down on I Street to the doctor and sits him in a chair and walks out. So that's how he became into care. Yeah, and he was with a family before us, and then they had a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old too, because he was 6 at a time. Yeah, them. Um, they had a child that was non-binary. There was 6, so it was it was an issue where you could. But it's crazy because every other foster parent that interacted with this family, we saw it, but every family we met after that, we saw the dynamic was the father really wanted to bond with our son. The mother could care less. And she definitely treated him like foster adopt, like a foster child, like a Cinderella story. She definitely treated him like that. But the father really got a bond with him and really, even when he came over, he texts, he reaches out, still texts or whatever to see how he's doing. The mother can care less because she had no interest in either fostering or adopting him. So she shows no interest or whatever. But that's kind of like the dynamic of our story, whatever. So um a lot of stuff a lot of families going through with the parents and all we kind of
She's had special needs.
detour, yeah, and the mother
Does
has
your son have that
Oh.
fear with the way that he came to be in the system and in your care? Does your son have that fear that something's going to happen to you guys?
no. So we talk. He's like, well, no. So a little tad bit of me. I'm on the bilateral lung transplant list. So I've been hospitalized a couple of times or whatever. So his mind kind of sometimes thinks, oh, dad's going to the hospital. Is he coming back? Um, just like I just got listed like 2 weeks ago. So when I got the call, of course I'm crying, and he's like, "Why are you crying?" Like he just happened to be in a room, and I'm like, happy. I'm getting a lung transplant. I'm not telling him lung transplant. I'm just like, dad is going to, when dad's going to get fixed, when he goes to the hospital sometimes or whatever, then, this time he's going to go and he's going to get fixed so he won't have to, do his treatments anymore because he knows for me about the treatment. So, because he sees me doing them. So he's like, so I'm like, so I don't have to do treatments anymore, or anything. And he's like, oh, okay. Sometimes you think you're talking to us. You got to remember you talk to a 7-year-old because he has his responses. And when he says, you're like, is he 30? Like, it's just, it's weird with him. Like, even when
The first time he went into the hospital,
yeah,
when he was with us, he flat out told us, "No, I'm not going to the hospital."
when he want to go, he's like, no, I don't want to go. So then I end up going to the hospital. I ended up being hospitalized like 3 times on the summer, and not until the last time he was like, "Okay, I'm come." And it was not. We're not going to push you. We're not going to force you. He said he didn't want to come, but he would FaceTime me. He would call me. But going to the hospital was a no, and we knew that it was a trigger because of what his uncle did. So it's like, and that he's seen his grandmother. So it's like, okay, we're not gonna do. And this was another thing you have to do as foster parents. You have to know their triggers, what their trauma that they've had, as a kid. Your trauma can be on their trauma, can add more trauma to them. So you have to think about all of those things when you're fostering, when you're adopting.
And your own personal triggers.
Yeah.
We have our own personal triggers that happen for us that child may or may not hit, and you got to keep that under control. You know, very
Because I have no relationship with my mom. It's been over 25 years. So I can't, and then I see his relationship with his mom in the direction it's going because she has special needs. So she doesn't focus on
Yeah.
she doesn't focus on men at all. When they come together and they're meeting up for their visit, she focused solely on the 3-year-old because that's who she had and that's who she's closest to. That's her bond.
He calls her Marquita.
Yeah, he doesn't even call her mom. He calls her Marquita, and he has the thing now. He's just like, okay, whatever. Hey,
Well,
and then he's going. And he's going. Like he'll say hey to her, and he'll just go about his business. So their relationship is like brother and sister because of how they was like, came up. It wasn't like, oh, that's your mom or whatever. So it's like, hey, Marquita, or he tells her what to do. Like, Marquita, you're not supposed to do that because she has developmental delay. So he's kind of smarter than her. So he tells her what she should do. Like if Crystal, like when she was 2, so but the sister was, she used the bathroom herself. Or Marquita, you're supposed to change her diaper. He's telling her, that. So
Wow. So let me we done fed the people today.
Yes.
First, I have to thank you all. As our listeners know, we were navigating the world, but you know what, as lived experience is a huge factor here. These are the necessary kinds of conversations.
Yeah.
So while one may have seen a topic and a headline, this is real life. This is real life for adoptive children, foster children, and we have to be very, very aware of the dynamics, the varying levels. There are a lot, and as you have heard from each of our guests, you need to walk in very, very informed. No one here has come on to scare anyone off of the process. What you should take away is that there are many children who are in need of loving homes, who need parents that will love them no matter what, that will protect them no matter what. And let me also say this as an adoptive parent: blood, get me real quick here, does not make one a parent. Blood does not do that. The day that my baby was placed in my arms, he was my baby. I knew him. He knew me. And it does not matter the age that we become, the age that the child is when we become their mommy or their daddy. Automatically, an instinct will kick in. You will know your child in every single thing they need. You will almost know everything that they think. So I need people to understand that as well. While someone's child may have come to them at 15, that does not make you any less their parent, and it will not make you connect any less. Now, the connection may be a little bit more challenging to achieve because of their own lived experiences, but you will connect, you can connect, you are their parent. The bottom line is, let us make it our business to protect children and love children. I need to say one other thing on this, that the children that are in care, the majority of them look like most of us on this screen. And many times I hear, in particular, Black families say, well, why do they have those Black children? Because they stepped up to love those children.
That part.
And if you're struggling with what that looks like to you, you step up and you help to change that dynamic. I tell this all the time. Children are adults' responsibility. Every adult. We need to get back to that old village mentality. Everybody in that village is responsible. There was something special about that village. And the children, again, it is our responsibility to nurture, love, and protect them. I need to say to each guest that has come tonight that I appreciate you more than what you would understand and what you would know, because I appreciate vulnerability. I appreciate openness. Trust and believe you all have fed some people, and I'm too churchy, so that's why I'm talking about y'all done fed the flock tonight. And that's exactly what needed to happen.
Yes.
Realness. And I can't thank you all enough for that. Kenya, I'm sorry, I done gone into a whole dissertation.
No, you're perfectly fine. I mean, I agree with you, and this happens a lot when we have these community conversations, right? We, as the moderators, when we have these list of questions we're going to ask, but sometimes spirit moves, right? And what's needed to be said will be said, right? Which we got to like question number 2 on our little list, right? But right. But what needed to be said was said, right?
Yeah.
Because like you said, this fed somebody, and I saw I'm reading the comments, and there's one more people that I knew was experiencing some of the same things and had questions. And again, yeah, somebody out there in the internet world needed to hear this conversation and hear the true raw vulnerability and also the love that each of you have for your children. Like it's abundantly clear that you all love your children in the various stages that you are in your journey to parenthood, and it's just been amazing to me as someone that does not have a child, has not done adoption yet, but it is something I'm thinking about, and I've talked to David about this, to hear how you all automatically like stepped up, and like was said earlier, you become that parent, right? You become that parent. Gender, sexuality, all that stuff comes out the window. You are a parent first, right? And you're experiencing these things as a parent that every other parent is experiencing. I mean, I remember being bullied at school, right? Because my dad didn't live with me and my mom had cut her hair and whatever. Because like you said earlier, kids are mean. Kids are just mean. I had a mean streak in me. Kids are mean. Kids are mean, right? And there's experiences that children are going to have regardless of what the family structure looks like. And it's important, and I started off by saying it's that, the child has a loving home, regardless, whether it's one parent, two parents, parents are the same gender, parents are whatever. Just having a loving home is to me is the main part of this conversation. It's there are parents out here that love their children and are willing to go to jail, willing to take out whole families, whole lineages for these children, right?
They 1,200 steps away. Is that what it was?
Okay, no. like I know that's right. Like, so who is someone in somebody's office to say any of these people on this call is not a good parent, is not going to love their child, or going to put their child in harm? You all just did an amazing job of dispelling whatever preconceived notions people have had about same-sex couples and adopting children. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank all of you for coming on and sharing all the raw emotion and stories that you all shared with us today. Thank you.
And we do, as everyone, we said in the beginning, and we're going to say it again, this is an ongoing series. It's going to be monthly. The goal is to wrap, if we ever wrap, this time next year, November of 2024.
Yes.
There are many different areas we're going to tap into. And again, it's our goal to help somebody. What I will say is our next one is in December 13th. As you all saw, parenting LGBTQ plus children, something you don't want to miss. In January, parenting as an LGBTQ plus parent. Now, we done heard some things from the parents on here because we went to we probably done already skipped over a few situations and then jumped into January, and that's fine because you might see them again. Who knows? I can't tell you that. They might need to come back and talk about that. So we have that in January. In February, challenging anti-LGBTQ plus legislation. A very important, necessary thing. We'll have some guests that are in the fight right now that have written legislation. You need to know that there is legislation on the books. Many of us in our community don't even know that it exists.
Right.
You got to know it so you can know what to call your congressman right today and tell them to fix this, because you don't work for them, they work for us, but they just don't know it yet while they're busy fighting. But I'm not going to talk about that. That's not what we're here to talk about. So, and then we will have family formation discussion. So we will have people that are discussing surrogacy, that are discussing IVF, obviously adoption, fostering, but there are many roads to parenthood. So we want to make you aware of all of those roads. So please follow Center for Black Equality, Journey to Josiah, so you can hear or see when we've got our next discussion. And also on this, I'm putting in a little plug. I'm so sorry, but some families here, and I'm trying to recruit another, Jonathan and Rome Williams, are going to be also guests on the Journey to Josiah podcast. So there are some things that we're going to dig even more into. Y'all heard some stuff tonight, but there are some other things, other spaces and places we're going into. So that announcement, I will say that is coming January 2024. Follow Journey to Josiah so you can see exactly when that rollout is. But 3 of these families on here, not just 2, are going to be guests, and they're going to talk some more about this. Okay, so there's a lot happening. So please follow Center for Black Equality. Please follow Journey to Josiah. We're here to change the world.
Yes, absolutely. Thank
2
you
Black
all.
faces at a time.
Thank you all again so much. We're going to share some resources for anyone that would like some of the information on the next screen. Again, thank you all. I look forward to work with you all again. Until next time and next month, be safe.